Well, now that everybody's had some time to stew on my thoughts from the last video, I want to wrap up a few things. I want to kind of just address a few things that I know I left hanging. I kind of did that intentionally, and then part of it was I just kind of got into a ramble, and then when I felt like it was enough, well, I just stopped. But, the whole gist of the last video revolves around the idea that if you can't accept somebody for who they are and you're stuck on who you thought they should be, and you make a lot of decisions based around the idea that you could change who this person is, that you're probably hurting yourself as well as that person, because most likely you've become an enabler, and in being an enabler, you are now an accomplice to this person, helping them down this road. And all of it due to an inability or lack of desires, it could be either or, even a small combination of both, to accept the person for who they are at face value. And that's not a good situation for anybody to be in. One, for the person who is having the problems, even though to them, they're getting some of what they want. They're getting attention, they're getting money, they're getting time, they're getting, all it serves to do is feed that person's bad habits and tendencies. You don't save an alcoholic by setting them up on a bar stool and giving them money. You don't help a drug addict by giving them money. If you want to feed an alcoholic, you buy them a meal and you give them the meal. If you want to help a drug addict, you listen to them, talk to them, you advise them. If you want to buy them a meal, you buy them a meal, but you don't give them money, things like that. So, but a lot of times when we make those decisions, we make them because in our head, this is not who this person is. It just can't be. I'm not willing to accept that this person is other than what my idea of what they should be is. And, that's a problem for all the other people around this person. And that's not even that person's fault. That is an inability or lack of desire to accept somebody for who they are. You love the idea of who you think they should be. But in doing that, you don't really love them. You have not accepted them for who they are. You don't take a wild animal and accept it to be anything other than what it is. It is in that animal's nature. And people are the exact same way. Just because you don't want that to be the truth does not mean that it isn't. So, and these are just observations. These are observations and sharing, both personal observations and observations of other people, of a lot of us in this situation. As you guys have most lately put together, this is our family situation. It's been this way long before the pandemic. This is not a culprit of the pandemic. This was the situation long before. The pandemic was just another thing in that time period that will be a factor in some of the discussions going forward, but not for this one. So, in these talks, what I want to do is I want to provoke you to think. I want to provoke you and challenge the ideas that may be floating around your head. And as has already been evidenced, if you read the comments of the last video, there's a lot of people going through this same stuff who maybe haven't had the conscious thought yet that, maybe there's a different way for me to look at this and maybe I'm addressing it the wrong way. And not that it's about right or wrong, but in all of this, the one thing you've got to keep in mind is to look out for yourself. I've heard people use the phrase when describing someone else that, well, that person would give you the shirt off their back. They would do anything for you. And I had a really good role model for that. Actually, I had a few really good role models for that. One of my grandfathers was one of them. Now, yes, he would give you the shirt off your back. if he felt that you were going to wear it to help yourself. He would not just give you the shirt off his back to say he did it. We have people in our family who go above and beyond to help this person, put themselves second or even third, and do so knowing this person isn't going to do the right thing, and try to justify it by saying things like, oh, we just love them so much that we would just do anything for them. And honestly, that is the most careless thing you can do. Not just for that person, it is careless for that person, but it's careless for you. And if there's one thing that this world and this life has taught me, is that you have to look out for yourself first, and that's not selfish. The thing is, and let's put ourselves back in the parent role, right? As parents, one of our primary jobs, one of our primary roles in everything we do is as a caretaker. Now, how are we supposed to take care of other people if we can't even take care of ourselves first? And the answer is you can't. You can't properly care for other people if you aren't caring for yourself. And we're not talking about kids, children. And look, 18-year-olds, even though I may upset some of us, the vast majority of 18, 19, 20-year-olds are still children. They aren't fully capable of taking care of themselves yet, not in a meaningful way. And what we serve to do as parents is to show them through examples how to take care of other people by taking care of them, but only by taking care of ourselves first. Now, taking care of yourself is, mental. So, most of us this day and age have had to come to grips with that we have some sort of mental health disorders, and I'm not even going to get into magnitudes. It doesn't matter if it's little or big, but we all, for the most part, suffer some sort of, mental health from some sort of mental health situation. Well, that has to be addressed. Physically, you have to take care of yourself. How can you drive your kids to the doctor? How can you take them to sports? How can you stay up late when they need somebody to talk to if you aren't getting enough rest, if you aren't taking care of yourself, if you aren't doing the things that you can do to maintain a healthy lifestyle? And look, I'm no athlete, so I'm not saying, the cream of the crop type lifestyle. I'm just saying well enough to where you can handle the things that come at you. If you are so into your own desires and impulses that you're an eater, right? And we all know somebody like this, at least one person. Oh, I'm an emotional eater. I'm going to eat a box of donuts and follow it up with a carton of Oreos because I'm an emotional eater. But if you put yourself into a situation physically, let's just use weight, to where you can't get around. We've all seen some of these people, who should be, age-wise, in a place to where they don't need to use things like scooters to get around or wheelchairs or things. And yet they do, because they neglected that first rule of take care of yourself. Because they gave into impulse and used it as an excuse instead of recognizing that it was the wrong thing to do. And instead of resisting it, we just jump straight into the impulse to go with it. Because in that moment, in some way, it made us feel better. Although, if you really think about it, and most of these people will admit it to you, as soon as they have transgressed, they have more guilt over following the impulse. So all the way around, that's a vicious cycle. And it's not looking out for number one. And now by not looking out for number one and having yourself in a poor mental state, in a poor physical state, which is probably affecting other aspects of your life, how are you ever supposed to take care of someone else? Kind of a paradox. And, it's not judgment. We all go through this stuff. We all are subject to this in some way, shape, or form. And even for the people that you think have their crap most of the way together, the people that you probably look up to and the people that you admire for the way that they conduct themselves and live their life and their accomplishments and the things they're able to do, even they have weaknesses, and even they have some of these struggles, and they're generally not 100%. The goal isn't to be 100%. The goal is to be better than your worst. So, you know, you have to. It is not selfish to say you put yourself first. If anything, it's responsible. What do you guys think? I mean, in your head, am I wrong? Do you think that maybe there's a better way to look at it, or a different way to approach that topic, of taking care of yourself? Let me know in the comments. I think that these are things that we don't talk about enough. We don't want to talk about the hard subjects. Partly because we don't want to be held accountable for the things that we do wrong. But, just like we talked about knowing other people and accepting them for who they are, we have to own our own selves. But not just the bad things. You don't just have to own the bad things, but you do, in order to keep yourself accountable. But you have to own the good things too. And that's not tooting your own horn. That's knowing where your strengths lie and being able to, much like criticize yourself for your faults, being able to accept yourself for your strengths, which we'll probably hit on next video. Later, guys.